All right, staying on top of our top story today, coronavirus fear, fright, and hysteria rocking the U.S. and global markets. China with some serious problems in their markets last night. Some banks couldn't open. The outbreak is apparently spreading. 700 some odd cases in South Korea and even outside of Asia. As I mentioned, in my hometown in Italy, there's apparently another 150 cases. The market is, as we speak, down almost 1,000 points. Most in a day in the last 3 years is 1175. So the technicals are very bad on that, because if we break below 1,000, a lot of sells are going to go in. A lot of programmatic trading could start happening. 950 it held, but under 1,000, we could break the record today. So you know what I say on days like this: if you built your portfolio properly, namaste. Stay calm. Don't do any panic buying. Don't do any panic selling. Sit there, see what happens. To calm your fears, or at least give it to us straight, she's our expert on the coronavirus. She's always there for us. Dr. Janette Neshiewat joins us again. Doctor, how are you?
Very well.
So there is a doctor in the house, thankfully. You know, I've been joking around about the coronavirus a little bit here and there. I know you pointed out previously that flu in America is probably a bigger fear than this. With this new news today, are you afraid?
I'm not afraid. I am concerned, because I'm not surprised in South Korea we have this outbreak. They don't have that strong, strategic, robust healthcare infrastructure that we do here in the United States. So I'm not surprised to see that big outbreak there. I am more concerned now, suddenly in Italy, we have 150 cases, and it originated in a 38-year-old man where he had no contact with China and didn't come into contact with anyone from China. So we don't know why that outbreak is happening. So that is concerning to me. Do we need to potentially extend the healthcare ban, the travel ban into the United States just to protect American citizens? That's definitely something we need to look at, because we don't know the origination of why this outbreak happened in Italy. In South Korea, we believe that it originated in a church. Maybe there was what's called a super spreader. One person had it, unknowingly spread it to other people in the church congregation. Yeah.
Give us a little more, because
sure.
I'm having a little difficulty.
Yeah, no problem. What's important to remember is when I said last time, John, that the flu is of a bigger concern to me. Absolutely, it still is a bigger concern, because we have thousands of people that die from the flu in this country, and we have 0 deaths with the coronavirus in this country. And technically, we only had about 15 cases in the United States, and then another 15 cases because of the failed quarantine on the cruise ship, the Diamond Princess cruise ship. So that's about 30-something cases. Everyone is doing well, no deaths. No one is in severe critical condition. We still have, the 14-day ban, a quarantine here in the United States. We have banned from traveling from China and that part of the world. And then we are going to begin to do what's called broad surveillance in certain cities in this country to check to see.
Well, Doc, thank you for that.
Yeah.
She's the best. But let me ask you this. Last time you were here, you were talking about the flu.
Yes.
And how the flu is very dangerous. Talking to my buddy Todd Starnes, who gives us a lot of economic commentary, really bright guy, and he was saying, like, throughout history, most of these plagues that broke out, within 3 to 6 months, the major part of it is kind of burnt out. It's kind of met its match, or it's run out of steam as it spread. Do you think this could be worse than the past, or?
I hope not. And here's the thing. These viruses, John, they tend to thrive in cold weather. So we're seeing today, for example, it's getting a little warmer. So hopefully as it warms up, as we enter the spring and the summer, we're going to see less and less cases. But we still need to keep our guard up. We still need to be vigilant in trying to determine if we suspect someone with the coronavirus. Early identification is critical. And then if we just suspect them, then we isolate them, confirm if they have it or not, treat them, and then we do what's called trace contacting, just to see, is it going to spread to other people, or have other people been potentially exposed? Because it's easily spread, highly infectious, highly contagious. So we need to take every precautionary measure that we can.
I know you're not a financial expert or anything, but I'm sure you have your own portfolio that you have to take a look at. People are nervous today. You know, they have their 401k, they have their IRA. They look up, they see the market down 1,000 points and maybe they get anxiety or they get depressed or something. There's some reports are out there that, you know, upwards of 150 drugs, many of the parts of those drugs we need to get from China. So could we be facing, you know, a pharmaceutical shortage here because of this?
That's an excellent question. That's one of the concerns in America. What we need to do in preparation for emergencies like this is staffing of healthcare providers, making sure we have enough doctors and nurses to staff the hospitals, and supplies, medications, surgical equipment, that sort of thing. It's definitely a concern. That's why we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket, getting all of our supplies from one country. But it's probably going to have a slight impact. But I think that our country is a very strong, resilient country, and I think we're going to have a nice rebound soon.
So if you had a guess, out of these 150 drugs, do you think any of them are like antidepressants or anything like those?
So most of them high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heartburn medicines, that sort of thing. But the good news is we have many options and alternatives. There's many different types of antidepressants, many different types of cholesterol medicines and blood pressure medicines that are created with different pharmaceutical companies. Some are produced, you know, in Canada, some in China. So it's not just one part of the world, even though they do produce a lot of what we use here in America. So it is of concern, but I think slowly with time, as the weather warms up, we'll see less cases. We'll be okay.
You know, one of the things that's overlooked in the minutia of the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade, the new trade agreement, is that most of the quality controls we have on the pharmaceuticals that we're buying from China, we don't really have great like real-time reporting on how they're staying up to speed because it's in China and all this other stuff. But the rules under the new USMCA are going to make it a lot easier for us to get more stuff from Canada and a lot closer geographically for us to keep up on the quality control and stuff. So maybe this is an opportunity for us to buy more locally.
And it probably will be cheaper, less cost. And on top of that, you know, I don't know if you recall, medicines that were being manufactured in China were traced with carcinogens, you know, blood pressure medicines, Zantac, you know, certain angiotensin medicine receptors that treat blood pressure were linked to cancer-causing agents. So I think it's definitely a good idea to look at other options and resources where we're getting our supplies and our medications.
Well, I better stock up on my antidepressants because if Bernie Sanders keeps winning these primaries, we might be socialists a year from now. But Doc, I had a couple of other esteemed doctors on, and we've talked about, you know, when you're saying, well, maybe if we get pharmaceuticals from Canada, maybe they'll be a little cheaper. And just on the healthcare front, because I think 65% of Democrats said that it's their top issue in the presidential election is healthcare. And when I talk to like doctors and pharmacists, they keep saying this word to me, the bukas, the bukas. Do you know what the bukas are? Like these middlemen, like
the pharmacy benefit managers. Yeah.
And apparently there's some problem that the price that the manufacturers are charging and the price that it's getting charged to pharmacies and Medicare, there's this huge difference in the middle that's being taken by these benefit managers, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I agree. And there's no federal oversight and regulation. That's why in other countries you can spend $10 on a medication that costs $100 here because pharmaceutical companies are charging whatever they want. So that's why our Trump administration is trying to pass legislation to reduce prices. He even tried to get pharmaceutical companies to list their prices on TV whenever they put up a commercial, but that was shot down. But there is a component of greed. Unfortunately, pharmaceutical companies have raised the prices of medications, life-saving medications, blood pressure medicines, cancer medicines, asthma medicines, higher than the rate of inflation. So, and they say, oh, well, we need it for research. I understand it costs billions of dollars for a new medication, but they use that as their ploy to raise up prices at the, unfortunately, putting that burden on the backs of families who are struggling to put food on the table.
People who are really bright on this stuff, like you, have told me that the pharmaceutical companies themselves are selling at a huge bulk discount to the benefit managers. And then a lot of the money isn't even really going to the pharmaceutical company. It's going to the pharmacy benefit managers. And, in most places, technology tends to rip out, I call them rent seekers, middlemen that don't really provide a value in the situation. Do you think maybe a connection between the manufacturers and the people who are actually distributing it, and removal of some middlemen would help America?
Absolutely. I think that would be great. As it is right now, the government is not allowed, or we're not allowed to negotiate directly with the pharmaceutical companies, and that's what the PBMs are for.
Right.
But what they're doing is just pocketing a lot of those rebates instead of passing them down to our senior citizens and those who are living in poverty and are barely able to survive. But legislation is being passed so that the government can directly negotiate with pharmaceutical companies to reduce the prices to help Americans, because definitely a huge problem that we're still struggling with families in America.
I'm all for middlemen that provide value in many transactions, but sometimes, there's a term called rent-seeking behavior where they no longer provide that value, but they're just putting a tax on it. And I think sometimes the pharmaceutical companies actually get the bad rap because they're selling at a discount, but to a middleman who then marks them up. So we're going to keep coming back to you any way I could figure it out, because you're great and the audience loves you. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back after this and talk some politics. We're going to mix it up, Democrat, Republican, right here. Manny Alejandro and Josh Kravitz right after this.